Hey class, so today we're going to do a coil pot, and I have a couple different examples here. This is a small vase. You can see it's about the size of my hand, and it's pretty thin. It's about maybe a little bit smaller than a pencil thickness for the coils, and you can see that I started off doing coils and then I blended them together, and then I started to do like a kind of a pattern. But you can see the shape goes like out and then in and then back out. So this is a really good example for you guys of just a simple coil pot. And then this one is a little bit fancier. It's more of a candle holder where all the little positive and negative spaces here let the light shine through. So that's kind of fun. So you could do a more advanced coil pot like this if you'd like to. If you've maybe done coils before, or if you wanted to just challenge yourself, then you could do something fun like this. This has plenty of different styles of coils. So this would totally work for a pot. But first thing I'm going to do is show you a couple different ways to make your base. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my wire cutter and I'm going to take a hunk of this clay here. Cuts it like butter. So I probably won't need all this clay, but for now we'll just roll with this here. Okay, so with this hunk of clay, I'm just going to take a small little wedge. And because our pots are going to be relatively small, you could just roll them into a ball. And even this seems big. Like I'm going to do like half of that size. Roll it into a ball. And then my surface, it could stick to it. So you're going to want to be a little bit careful with that. But you can basically just smush it down. And it doesn't matter if it's perfectly round or not. Yeah, it's sticking a little bit here. So it doesn't matter if it's perfectly round or not. If it's sticking to your surface and you don't want it to, grab like a piece of newspaper or something and you can work on that, and then it won't stick to your surface. It'll come off really easy. So you just can pat it out like a pancake or like a little cookie, and you just want to have pretty nice even thickness through it. Again, it's about pencil thick. Actually, I would say perfectly pencil thick. So that would work as a base for your coil pot. So there's one way. The other way is to roll out a piece of clay. So again, I have the same size ball. And if you wanted to roll out, that's what these two pencils are for. It doesn't matter if they're sharpened or not. I feel like it works better if they're not sharpened. I'm going to rip this real quick, because I just need a small bit there. So you're going to put the pieces on either side. You can kind of start off with kind of smushing it a little bit just to get it started. But this is going to make sure it's perfectly even. So I have this soda can here that I'm going to use as my rolling pin. You just need to make sure that your pencils are no wider than your soda can, or whatever you're using as your rolling pin. I was thinking that maybe I should go to a mini mart and get one of those crazy iced teas that are like super long cans, because then I'd have more space to work with. But for now, all I have is this can. So I'm just wrapping a piece of newspaper around it, just because it'll stick to the can just like it sticks to the table. So that's what I'm doing. You can decide to do it or not. And then I'm just going to use it as my rolling pin. So I'm just going to go and I'm going to roll it out a little bit, pick it up, turn it, make sure my things are nice and straight, and then I'm going to roll it again. See how it's actually coming out really nice. And then you're just going to keep rolling it until it doesn't roll anymore, because it's the thickness of the pencils. And that's how you get a perfectly even thickness. That's how we're going to do our next project too. So now you have two different ways of getting relatively the same thickness. One was rolling it out and one was just smushing it down. Again, they don't have to be perfectly rounded or whatnot. They can, if you want them to be. They can be whatever shape you guys want. If you wanted it to be a fun, crazy shape, if you have cookie cutters, you could use cookie cutters. This last style of a base is a coil. Now, typically I would say that we don't like to use coils, and I think even in the video she mentioned not to use a coil for the base. If you're not going to put some water or something liquid in your pot that you're making, it'd be fine to make a coil base. The coil bases tend to crack when they dry, so that's why a lot of times artists would probably say not to do it. But it would totally be fine if you did. And of course, I don't have water. That's real unfortunate. Let me see. little water from the fridge. Don't tell my boyfriend, he would be mad. Okay, so we're going to take our water and we're going to get our coil wet. You can use more water than I'm using, or you can just use your hand. There, that works way better. And then you're going to take your whatever tool you're using to score. So we just added the water to make slip, and now we're scoring it up. And this is just a quick way to make a base if you didn't want to roll out a piece of clay, or you just wanted to have a little bit more of a decorative base. So then we've got it all scored up, and then you're just going to take it and start rolling it in like one of her snail coils that she did on the video. And that could be a base too. And then you could either like smooth it out to where you don't see it, except maybe on the back side. You could take a paintbrush. I don't think I have any little baby paintbrushes out here in the garage. I should have grabbed one. But you could take a paintbrush and clean up these little cracks. Or I'm going to take my sponge that I cut into just a little triangle piece. And I'm just going to use that because that'll work just fine. And you can just kind of get those slip and score marks. Sometimes I leave the slip and score marks. Like I have a pot in the classroom that I kind of wanted it to look like almost like tree bark kind of. And so I wanted to leave some of those slip and score marks to create more texture in it. So you can kind of decide. And I'm just kind of cleaning this up because I like the coil look. I like to see the coils. So I'm just cleaning it up. You can also go wait till it dries a little bit more and clean it up. The inside we're not going to probably see, so you can just blend that together. And that'll make it more more sturdy too. So one thing that when you start making your coil pots that you're going to want to think about too is that these are going to take just a little bit of time because coils are really wet when we put them together. And then when we start building our coils, we're going to want to probably just do like, anywhere from like 4 to maybe 8. That I feel like 8 would be a lot. But when you roll out your coils, I usually start the coils in my hand. And I'm going to move this because it's just distracting, I feel like. So there's 3 different types of bases that you could use. They could be any shape if you wanted to get crazy and, do a fun shape like, I don't know. I had a frog cookie cutter, but it's really big. Frog cookie cutter in the house. So like it wasn't really going to work out for me. But when you're rolling, just make sure that you're rolling all the way. Sometimes you'll notice that you'll get like kind of a flat and it goes thunk, 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 thunk piece of coil. It's because you're only rolling it like halfway. So like she showed you in the video, just pat it down, give it a little twist like a drill bit, and then keep rolling it. If your clay is cracking or breaking, it's because your clay is too dry. Get some more fresh clay. So you want to try to create the same thicknesses. So like if you went with a pencil thickness like I did here, then you want most of your coils to be the same thickness as well. If it varies just a little tiny bit, it's not going to be a huge deal. You want consistency. That's our even wall thickness that we talked about in our presentation. So just again, when you start adding pieces, you've got to slip and score everything together. So you add a little moisture to the piece. You can use a sponge if you don't want to get your hands wet. It just is up to you. And then you're going to need to take your scoring tool and score them together. Now, like she said in the video, she didn't score everything together. She was doing it really fast. Sometimes you can get away with, if your clay's really, really wet, you can get away with not slipping and scoring, but I'm going to suggest to you guys that that is not an option for you. You have to slip and score, mainly because these tend to fall apart very, very easily. So you could do something too, like if you guys wanted to, depending on how you want your pot to go, you could start it and you could end each piece where it ends, or you could just go crazy. Sometimes I go crazy. And you can just continue it on around, just slipping and scoring. And remember, like she said, if you want it to start coming out, you put it to the outside. If you wanted it to start going in, you'd put it to the inside coil. I want mine to start coming out because I'm using the little itty bitty base. Itty bitty base. And then as you go, you're going to want to blend. So I would probably just use, probably want to wait till it sits up a little bit more than this. but you can use like your fingernail and you can just blend that together. Just make sure that you have your hand again on the backside, creating like a backstop so when you add pressure it doesn't just fall apart on you. But every couple coils, like every 2 or 3 coils, you're going to want to blend them together and then move on to more coils. And depending on how big your pot is, like I said, you might have to do 4 or 5 coils and then stop and wait a day put it in your plastic bag and wait a day and then come back to it because it needs to get more stable before you can move on. And you guys are really going to want to clean up this inside so it's not all boogery. I call it boogery when you get like these little like weird little boogers of clay. You're going to want to clean them up as you go because otherwise when they get fired, if we get to fire our projects, they'll become very sharp. They'll be like little razor blades inside there. So once you build up a couple layers, then you're going to put it in your Ziploc bag. Like I obviously just did 1 layer. I could do more layers. But for the time being, I just wanted to show you guys quick how to do the 3 different styles of bases and then how to start your coil pot and blend them together. Otherwise, the rest is up to you. You can do them where they're very patterned, where you have like 3 and then a pattern and then 3 and a pattern. You could make them very irregular where you have all sorts of crazy things going on, like her pot on the video, or like this one here where like there's no real set pattern. It's just all these little different swirls and doohickeys. Maybe there's unity with the circles, but that's it. You just have to make sure that you have at least two different kinds of coil, or three different styles of coils other than the straight ones. So you could have a straight one and then like O's and then the U's, whatever. We have to have 3 different styles and 8 coils tall. So when you look at this pot here, you can see this section here is blended, but I have 1, 2, 3 coils here. So I would take this measurement and I go, okay, there's 3, so there's probably 6, there's 9. So it's not like you're not going to get penalized for using cool coils. Like this is 1 coil, right? But it takes up the space of 3. So that's how I'm grading the 8 coils tall. I hope that clears things up for you guys with the requirements. Have fun with the coils. They're super fun. I love the coil pots. Okay. I guess that's all for the moment that I can think of. Yeah. Until next time.